I guess I should start with a brief background on today's subject matter, though I really don't think I need to, since people already know the story by now, but in any event, let's get it out of the way. After Super Mario Bros. Became a hit, Nintendo was hard at work on the sequel, and so a year later, Super Mario Bros. 2 hit the Nintendo Family Computer Disk System. But due to concerns about the game being perhaps a bit too difficult for the stupid American audiences, this Mario game in particular never made the trip overseas. Instead, Nintendo took another game called Doki Doki Panic, tinkered with the graphics and the gameplay, and that became Super Mario Bros. 2 as far as non-Japanese audiences were concerned. Now, this game in particular did eventually hit North American shores via the Super Mario All-Stars compilation cart under the moniker of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. And it wouldn't be until 2007 when the original Super Mario Bros. 2 game would be made available to North American players via the Wii Virtual Console, and as of this recording at least, is one of dozens of games featured on the Nintendo Switch Online NES service. Although released under the localized title of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, the title screen still says Super Mario Bros. 2. And while people will praise this game to the high heavens as being better than the Super Mario 2 game that we did get, the truth of the matter is that this is nothing more than a glorified ROM hack of the original Super Mario Bros. Game, with a couple minor additions and a new set of expert levels designed for expert players, living up to the moniker of sorts, Super Mario Bros. For super players. I'd go so far to say that in between the two games to bear the name Super Mario Bros. 2, I honestly feel that the SMB2 that we did get is actually the better sequel despite its dubious origins, if you want to call it that, but that's another story for another time. Don't get me wrong, The Lost Levels, Super Mario 2 Japan, whatever you want to call it, is not necessarily a bad game by any means. It's probably as good as the original Super Mario Bros. But other than poison mushrooms, high jumping Luigi, and a supercharged difficulty, this is just Super Mario Bros. With new levels and a new coat of paint. There wasn't anything new added to improve upon the gameplay. You were still stomping on Goombas, Troopas, getting fire flowers, storming fortresses, and using the axe to send Bowser to sleep with the lava fishies. Still unable to backtrack in the level unless it's via warp pipe. It's basically the same thing with very little deviation. It's not a bad thing, I like more of the same, when it's done well, and this is certainly that. But considering that people made a big deal out of this game not being released way back when, let's just say I expected more than what I actually did. But in any event, what you got here was a game that played just like Super Mario Bros. 1, which is good because controlling that game was responsive and the core gameplay mechanics were done well. Certainly, same case here. Now, there are a couple bells and whistles that were added to this game to differentiate it from its predecessor, such as poison mushrooms that kill you just as any enemy would, reverse warp zones taking you back to earlier worlds, red piranha plants that come out of pipes whether you're standing next to them or not, and wind, which gives you more forward momentum. You also get a slightly higher bounce when jumping off enemies, more so off paratroopas. This little ability is something worth mastering if you can, especially towards the end because you're going to need it. But really, this little nugget is based more on chance than anything, and is eventually perfected in Super Mario Bros. 3, where it really does become a useful ability to learn. And while a two-player mode is missing from this game, you do have the option of playing as either Mario or Luigi, both of whom play differently enough from each other that both offer a unique experience from the same set of levels spanning 13 worlds, including 8 that you normally play, and 5 others that you have to unlock through certain means. Basically, Luigi jumps higher while Mario has better traction. Some worlds benefit from Luigi's high jumps, but others will have players thankful that Mario doesn't slip as much as Luigi does. Lost Levels is pretty damn hard, that goes without saying. And it's pretty proud that it's pretty damn hard. The game's main selling point is how hard it is. It advertises itself as Super Mario Bros. For super players, and it certainly lives up to that claim. Novice players may shy away from the intense challenge that this game provides just within the first couple of worlds, and no one will blame them. But persistent players will keep at it, will get a good sense of fulfillment in beating the initial 8 worlds. Some might even reach Fantasy World 9, a world only attainable if you beat the initial 8 without warping, and if you're really good, you'll get to tackle 4 more worlds, a hidden bash even harder than the rest. So you do get quite a bit of game here if you're willing to stick with it all the way through. But then again, that depends on whether you can put up with the rather high level of difficulty. presented by Super Mario Bros. 2, the Lost Levels thing. Yep. Graphically speaking, it's just Super Mario Bros. 1 with different looking blocks and a different looking mushroom power-up. All the other sprites in the game look the same as they did in the first Mario game. Even the poison mushroom started off as a different colored mushroom. Same old thing, but that's not a bad thing, it works for the most part. Likewise, if you recall the classic soundtrack of the original Super Mario Bros. And liked it a lot, then you'll be happy to know that it's been retained here with no alterations. Well, okay, they extended the ending theme at the conclusion of the game, but other than that, it's the same tunes you heard in the previous game. Nothing new to add here. Same with the sound effects. Outside of a brand new skidding sound effect, it's the same old song and dance as the previous go-around. Fortunately, these tunes are pleasant to listen to the second go-around, so I've got no real complaints here. On a whole, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, aka Super Mario Bros. 2 for the Family Computer Disk System, is more of the same. Yes, there's a couple minor additions, and the game as a whole is a whole lot more harder than its predecessor, but it's pretty much the same game that was released in 1985, just with harder levels. Lost Levels is available as part of the Super Mario All-Stars compilation that was released for Super Nintendo in 1993, which also saw a re-release for the Wii in 2010 as part of the 25th anniversary celebration of Super Mario Bros. And it was also a hidden game in Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Game Boy Color. However, both versions do feature alterations from the FDS original and aren't exactly true to the original source. Like I said before, the Family Computer Disk System Original is available on the various Virtual Console services, originally appearing on the Wii in 2007 before migrating over to the Wii U and 3DS. There used to be a reproduction card for the NES of years back that has since been discontinued, and you could always go the import route if you wanted to, but nowadays the easiest way to play this game would be through the Nintendo Switch Online service. Either way, if you're into Super Mario Bros. And you want a tougher challenge, then the Lost Levels await you. As for me, I'll just stick with the Super Mario 2 game that we did get because it's quite frankly a much better game. I'm sorry, but it just is. But we'll save that for another time.